the Message translation. So here goes. You know the story of how Adam landed us in this dilemma we're in. First sin, then death, and no one exempt from either sin or death. That sin disturbed relations with God and everything and everyone, but the extent of the disturbance was not clear until God spelled it out in detail to Moses. So death, this huge abyss separating us from God, dominated the landscape from Adam to Moses. Even those who didn't sin precisely as Adam did by disobeying a specific command of God still had to experience this termination of life, this separation from God. But Adam, who got us into this, also points ahead to the one, Jesus, who will get us out of it. Yet the rescuing gift is not exactly parallel to the death-dealing end. If one man's sin put crowds of people at the dead-end abyss of separation from God, just think of what God's gift poured through one man, Jesus, will do. There's no comparison between the death-dealing sin and this generous life-giving gift. The verdict on that sin, one sin, was the death sentence. The verdict on the many sins that followed was the wonderful life sentence. If death got the upper hand through one man's wrongdoing, can you imagine the breathtaking recovery life makes, sovereign life, if those who grasp with both hands this wildly extravagant life gift, this grand setting, everything right, that the one man, Jesus Christ, provides. Here it is in a nutshell. You ready? Just as one person, Adam, did it wrong and got us all into trouble with sin and death, who separated from us from God, another person did it right and got us out of it. But more than just getting us out of trouble, he got us into life. One man said no to God and put many people in the wrong. One man said yes to God and put many in the right. All that passing laws against sin did was produce more lawbreakers. Sin didn't and doesn't have a chance in competition with the aggressive forgiveness we call grace. When it's sin versus grace, grace wins hands down. All the sin can do is threaten us with death, and that's the end of it. Grace, because God is putting everything together again through the Messiah, invites us into life. A life that goes on and on and on, world without end. In Luke, Jesus says, hey, look, there's this story. It's like of a man and his two sons. And the dad is loaded. I mean, rich. Like, outrageously rich. There's one son who doesn't really care, loving life. And the other son's like, man, Dad, you're in good health. You know, you're not going to die for a while. I'm never going to get to enjoy the money that you have by the time you die. I'm probably not too far along behind you dying, so I won't get to enjoy this. Hey, God, can you just go ahead and give me your inheritance? Or, hey, Dad, can you go ahead and give me your inheritance? Dad says, sure, I guess so. Here you go. Son gets the inheritance, goes away, make a long story short, pisses it all away, gets really upset, gets really sick, gets really unhealthy, makes a lot of bad choices, catches disease, sleeps with a lot of people, parties a lot, and ends up flat on his face and thinking, man, life sucks. And he's down on his knees. He's eating out of a trough, and he's hungry, and he's miserable. And he looks over and he thinks, man, these animals get better food than I. And then it goes through his head. And he thinks, man, it would be better to be a servant in my dad's house. It'd be better to be a slave in my dad's house halfway across the world than it'd be to be here in the way that I am. So I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he gets the money or what kind of things he has to do to get back to the other side of the world. But he goes that way back to his dad, and I know he's thinking, man, what if my dad doesn't take me back? I mean, what if my dad just disowns me and says, you ungrateful piece of crap? What if he says that? What if he's like, you know what? You don't deserve to be in this house. Go back to where you came from. You wasted all my money. You made all these bad choices. You did all this stupid stuff. No. So, he's wondering as he walks back, gosh, I just hope, man, I hope I can just be a servant in my Father's house. Jesus explained the story. He says basically the dad's on the front porch or some place similar, and he sees off in the distance a kind of a slumped over guy kind of just walking slowly back to the house, and he sees this long driveway. And he recognizes the kid, his son. And it says that the dad runs out and embraces him, and they hug, and they reunite, and they reconnect. And he sends people, and he says, go and get the best food, get the best clothes. We're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate. For my son was lost, but now he's found. They don't make him a servant. They make him a child. Jesus says to us, he says, hey, I don't consider you a servant. I consider you a friend. Because a servant doesn't know about his master's business, but everything my Father has made known to me, I have made known to you. And he also says, greater love has no man than this. Then he laid down his life for a friend. Jesus shows up. God says, look, here's a solution. Man has made some bad choices. They keep trying to give themselves value and add to their own lives, and they just don't get it. They're hurt. They're sad. I'm a just God, which means there's a punishment. There's a wage for what they're doing. There's a wage for that sin, and that wage is eternal death and damnation and disconnection from me, God. And he says, Jesus, son, I need you to hop out of this great, nice heaven. I need you to go down there. I need you to become man. I need you to get it all figured out. And I know this is a crazy story, but if you can figure out a better option, then work on it. Right? So Jesus goes and he becomes man, and he is perfect in every way, and he decides to be the penalty for that death. And he's laying, and he's like, look, greater love has no man this, and you're going to see this in a few weeks when I just give my life for you. Here's the deal. One of the real cool, savvy, politically correct things to say in this world is, you know what, I understand that Jesus, I think he was a good guy, a good prophet. And I think he was a good teacher. He did some good things. I mean, apparently he did something that was a big deal. Our time is set up completely around the concept of who Jesus is. I mean, Jesus' life changed the way we view years. So apparently something happened. Obviously, Jesus, who was real, did something. People were like, you know what, he's a good moral teacher. I believe in some of the attributes of him. I just don't believe he's God. C.S. Lewis says this. I am trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about Jesus. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of thing Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on the level with the man who says he's a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about him being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. You can make your choice. I'll be honest with you. Religion ain't going to work. Because in our attempts to get to God, we are fallen, imperfect, and we can't. Christ is the only solution I know of that can possibly work, and here's the reason why. It is the only solution that I am aware of in studying and pursuing. It's not man trying to get to God. It is God trying to get to man. Religion, man's attempt to get to God. The Christ life, Christianity, is God's attempt to get to man. You choose. You choose. This isn't an emotional thing. You choose. Just hours before Jesus is to be arrested, and then a few hours later, he'll be tried and then crucified. He goes to the Garden of Gethsemane. And he gets down on his knees and he begins to pray to his Father in heaven. And all this junk suppressed on him, the stress of us and our choices to come, and the sin, the disconnection from God, from all of man, the responsibility on him for all eternity. And he's there and he just can't take it anymore. And he says this, he says, God, if there's any other way, if there's any other way at all, will you please take this cup from me? But not my will, God, yours. You know the story. You've seen the Easter plays. You've watched the movie. God didn't intervene. God didn't come in and save the day. God let his son be nailed to a cross and crucified. Here's the deal. If he's really God's son, there was any other way possible get to God.